there was a handful of things that you could take away from the game. I don't think any were tremendous nuggets of information. I don't think any were stone cold, write it in stone, this is now true after seeing it last night. But there was a group of things that I think are worth mentioning. I've broken them up into 3 categories. The categories are the good, the bad, and the ugly. Old school, right? We'll go in that order. We'll start with the good. To me, the biggest good from the entire night was Eku Leota coming off the edge.
Oh, he was great. He was awesome.
3 tackles, 2 for a loss, a sack, a quarterback hit, and he drew a holding penalty. That's pretty darn impressive.
That's disruptive.
That's disruptive. It's doing what you should do. Now, I don't think this necessarily is like, all right, Leota, you're the guy opposite Jadeveon Clowney. I don't think it's even Leota. You're definitely 100% going to be on the active roster every week. I think what it is, oh, we should look at this Leota guy more, right? I think what it is, all right, let's get him some reps with the ones in practice. Let's see how he works against Taylor Moton. Let's see how he works against the Jets first team when we do joint practices. Nothing is given. Like, when people talk about in the NFL, oh, when you get the opportunity, you have to seize it. You don't seize the opportunity and now you're like a made man, right? Now you're destined. It's, okay, you took advantage of that opportunity. We'll give you a slightly bigger opportunity. All right, you've taken care of that. We'll give you a slightly bigger opportunity. And Eku Leota last night, with flying colors, took advantage of the opportunity he was given. Jake Luton, on a couple days' notice, the quarterback that came in second after Jake Plummer's extended run, Jake Luton on just a couple days of practice. I think he signed with the team on Monday.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Just a couple days practice, played solid as what I'm going to describe as a super depth quarterback. I don't think he makes the roster, right? I think they've invested enough now in Jake Plummer that he'll be a practice squad guy. I think obviously Bryce Young and Andy Dalton are the 2 on the roster, and what Jake Luton just became is the, hey, keep our number. If anything happens, if someone gets hurt, we're going to give you a call if we need you. If somebody else calls, good luck, right? Like, hey, we're happy for you. But if not, we're definitely going to keep your number on the speed dial. On defense, shout out to safety Alex Cook and corner Lamar Jackson. I thought they stood out in the secondary. Both made plays. Both flew around, which is what I said I wanted to see from the defense, right? When you're out there, especially this early in training camp, you're not going to know, like, if the defense runs the offense runs a particularly tricky play, you're not going to have every rule memorized on what you're supposed to do and who's supposed to run with who. But fly around, make plays, right? If you're in man, you know your guy, stay in his hip pocket. Lamar Jackson made some, by the way, not that Lamar Jackson, the corner for the Panthers, made some plays. Alex Cook said, I'm a safety back here. I'm going to make as many tackles as I can, and I'm going to deliver them with force when possible. And that's exactly what he did.
Deshaun Jameson on the back end also stood out for me. A couple pass breakups, also a couple really good kick returns as well. Versatility is key.
I agree. I agree. And showing special teams ability, the more things you can do. I don't know if I've told that story yet here. At the University of Delaware, where I played, there was a guy that played before me named Mike Adams. We called him Pops because apparently he was like an old soul and from the moment he got on campus.
That's fair.
He ended up playing, I want to say, 14 or 15 years in the NFL. Was a captain maybe of the Colts. Like, ended up being a very highly paid safety in the NFL for a long time. But undrafted out of the FCS, started his career. And he tells the story. This is like him motivating us, and now I am using his story and co-opting it to talk about players trying to make the roster. His first year, undrafted, rookie, free agent with the Cleveland Browns, who at the time stunk, right? This is like, I'm just trying to make the worst team in the NFL so I can live another day. And he was at meetings one day, and he had a cup with sunflower seeds. And he was spitting the shells into the cup and hanging out. So he's walking down the hallway, and he bumps into someone, and he spills the sunflower seeds, and they're just all over the place. So he looks in the corner, and there's a broom leaning up against the side of the wall. So he walks over to the corner, grabs the broom, and starts sweeping up the sunflower seeds. Right when their head coach at the time, Eric Mangini, walks down the hallway and sees him doing this, and all Mangini said was, "The more things you can do, Mike, the more things you can do." Because it's hard to get rid of people. It's hard to cut people when, or I should say it this way, it's easy to cut people when they're a third-string safety. It's hard to cut people when they're a third-string safety, a second-string gunner on punt, a third-string guy on hands team, a first-string guy on kick return, and also he's like a personal protector on punt in emergency situations. Like, it's more difficult to get rid of you the more you can do. So somebody like Robinson, who you just brought up, having a pretty good day on defense, having a good kick return, right, mixing it up, he should pick up a broom, man. The more you can do, the harder it is to get rid of you. So that's my long story. That is someone else's story that I passed along to you. Let's get to the bad. That was the good. Let's get to the bad. The number one thing I wanted to see from the offense last night was just flow. There was none. It was record scratch. It was uncomfortable. Like, it was that over and over and over again.
It was kind of hard to watch at times.
It really was, and it's offensive line not there, quarterback. I'll give Jack Plummer credit. The first drive, he had 2 pretty bad drops that he put on the money. Could have been first downs. I think maybe would have been like a spark to a different day for him.
Like, hey, I can do this.
But once those drops happened, the room started spinning on him. He got a little dizzy. Didn't know what he was looking at, and held onto the ball too long. Took some sacks he shouldn't.
I think he's still holding onto the ball right now.
Panicked because a few times he panicked and flipped it to no one in particular, and that ended up being an intentional grounding. So, and he had another one down in the goal line. There was some lack of offensive rhythm, which is partially because of the people they elected to play. Right, you'd hope that the starters would be the guys that were the tone setters and got that rhythm in motion, but also you'd like to see a little bit more preparedness up and down the depth chart from a head coach with an offensive mind that's spent a ton of money on the offensive side of the ball this year, that's drafted a bunch of players on the offensive side of the ball this year. It just really wasn't there. Dave Canales after the game talked about the bad spots the offense found themselves in.
Saw some really physical play from the defensive side. Offensively, played hard, played physical, but the execution just wasn't there. We put ourselves behind the sticks a bunch with some pre-snap penalties, holding calls, some things like that are things that we're going to have to work through. But when that happens, it just makes everything so much harder. And while we'd like to be able to have those downs and be able to mix things more and sustain drives, that's something we got to do.
I agree with the more harsh parts of that comment. The nice stuff at the beginning, I'm not sure. I don't know if I watched that like, oh, they played physical. I don't remember anything particularly physical. That's the good, that's the bad, the ugly. The drops, man.
Bruh.
The drops. Jonathon Mingo, Terrace Marshall Jr., Emir Smith-Marset. These are guys that I've been told, and it's been beaten into our skulls over the last 2 weeks, have been having great camps, and they've turned a corner, and they're making plays, and they're winning 50-50 balls, and they're a different wide receiver core all the way down to these guys. And right out the gate, it was like, nope. And it's an issue.
It's back-to-back plays that happened.
Back-to-back plays for what, like, they're tone setters, right? Jonathon Mingo is out there as the only player that is active in the game that is listed as a starter on the depth chart. The only offensive starter that was active was Jonathon Mingo. The first third down, they call a play that gets Jonathon, or actually the first, second down. They call a play for Jonathon Mingo to be open. Which order was it? Was Mingo first or second?
Marshall was first.
Okay, there you go. That's even
second.
better. They call a play on the first third down, which is a better point to make, right? The first clutch play that can get some momentum. They call a play that gets Jonathon Mingo open. The undrafted rookie free agent quarterback puts it on him. He gets both hands on the ball, and it's an incompletion.
Puts it right in his chest.
And to hear Steve Smith Sr. do the whole like, well, the pass might be a little and then he watched the replay and went, oh, no, never mind. That's on the money.
Yeah.
Nope. He just dropped it. Like, Mingo, that's your role in that offense, right? That's your role for the team is to make that catch. Terrace Marshall Jr., you're a second-round pick going into your fourth year, getting the opportunity to pick up a first down early in the game. That's why you're out there, right? They didn't want to depend on practice squad Mike. They didn't want to depend on Emir Smith-Marset to get the ball rolling. They wanted to see what those guys would do once the ball was rolling, but you guys are the ones with the high pedigree that the team was leaning on.
Smith-Marset had a drop there in the fourth.
He did.
Yeah. All three of those guys did. By the way, I'm done with Terrace Marshall Jr. Done.
I mean, I'm not.
I'm done.
In the scheme of things, still practice, like, it's still a preseason drop. If it makes me concerned about what I said earlier, right? If two guys that weren't very good last year are dominating your defense in practice, I'm going to ask questions about the defense before I assume that those two guys that weren't very good last year are suddenly all pros. And then the first time they get up against a defense that's not the Panthers, they go right back to what they were doing a season ago. That's going to be a concern on multiple levels.
And they were open. That's the thing. Yeah. I was saying, like, you got open.
Got open.
Just catch it.
And you couldn't say this all night, but on that first drive, Jack Plummer found you.
He did.
Got it to you in rhythm, on time, on target. That's ugly. And that's something that you have to address. And maybe I like literally, and Coach Canales said this, I think it might change their plans for having who eligible active next week.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to put Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen active next week. I don't care if you give Adam Thielen 3 plays. Have him catch the first ball just because he might be the only person you're wildly confident is going to.
By the way, speaking of being versatile and more you can do, Terrace Marshall doesn't play special teams. Doesn't cover.
I don't know why.
Doesn't return.
Because he's an athlete.
Just doesn't do it. So guess what? That's the reason why he was a healthy and active so much last season. It's because, well, you're not going to – if your number 5 wide receiver isn't going to play special teams, we're not going to activate that person. Simple as that.
The more you can do. Well, I guess the opposite of that would be the less you can do.
I mean, he doesn't do anything.